of the Bitcoin Ballers. You're back for track number 2, breaking down the Central Division on today's episode. Welcome. We got some big news to kick off the episode. I mean, broke hours before we decided to go live. We were still talking through what time we were going to go live, and then boom, the Portland Trail Blazers shocked the NBA world in a 3-team deal, sending none other than Dame Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks. And of course, just catching strays on the side. DeAndre Ayton shipped out of Phoenix. Honestly, people are going to say that the Bucks won this trade, and we're going to spend some time really breaking down the Bucks side of it. But I'm going to say Phoenix won this trade. The Phoenix Suns got the right pieces in this trade.
I mean, I don't know if we were on air when we were talking about it, but I was sure that it was either last episode or the episode before. It could have been last one, but Ayton going to Portland, and it's like he has an opportunity to be a legitimate force with the right mix of people. When you think about the veterans that are on Phoenix, you have Beal, you have Booker, you have Durant. He's not a garbage bucket player. I'm not saying that and the argument may be made, he's a Chris Paul center. But what's going to end up happening is with a bunch of young guys around, he has a little bit more gravity where he is able to feel more confident about the shots he takes, and they won't be giving him a crazy stink eye when he takes his shots. It's going to be good for his development. Now, whether he develops is another thing, but I see Portland as saying, hey, they got a lot of good pieces and maintaining their legitimacy, which is a 35-win team. They maintain their ability to get 35 wins. Let's just say that.
Look, at the end of the day, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, DeAndre Ayton is about to get exposed in the Portland Trail Blazers because they're gonna rely on this guy, and he is not gonna be able to hold up his end of the bargain. Plain and simple. I don't want to spend a ton of time because he is a Chris Paul center. I made that claim. I am the one making that claim, and let it be known he is going to have his worst statistical season of his veteran career.
I left my
Mark it down.
I left my notebook in my work bag. I'm behind on all the claims that you're making.
Mark it down. But I want to shift our focus because we're going to focus only on the Central Division. We'll get to these teams, although. Let's talk Portland because we did talk Portland on the last episode real quick. For me, the biggest surprise here was the fact that they moved on from Dame before training camp. But my Scoot Henderson, my Scoot pick looks awful nice right now. Don't say it, man.
I thought let Scoot cook, and that's exactly let whoever was going to take place of Damian Lillard, let him cook. And if Drew Holiday is rounding out that backcourt with two young rising stars, and then all of a sudden rising stars
I don't think Drew Holiday is going to be on this team for very long.
Yeah,
he gets shipped to a contender.
He could get bought out. Yeah. Now I'm looking at he's 33. He probably doesn't want to be there. No. And for however long, but let's just say that he plays out the beginning of the year. It's a decent team that's not going to get worse because Lillard leaves. And that's the big fear that people thought, they're going to be bad now that Dame is gone. I'm like, it was the Dame show and everyone else. This team is going to have a little bit more chemistry. They're going to allow their young core to rise to the occasion. And they won't be scared of mistakes. There's a lot of weight when it comes down to there's this all-time great let's just say top 100 player all time. on the court with you and you want to take that shot, you have to think about, like, is this the right shot? A lot of people second guess themselves, especially the overthinkers. I would be the type of guy to overthink. And even a lot of very talented players that made it all the way to the NBA will still overthink those shots when they're on the floor with greatness like that. So Lillard leaving is almost like a burden off the shoulders of those other guards. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, my final point, and then I want to move on to the Milwaukee Bucks. The one caveat is we've seen teams very young give their young guys, hey, you have the reign to do whatever you want, and then kind of fall flat on your face. I'm looking at you, the Houston Rockets, like that. No one on that team has done anything impressive. No one's really going above and beyond, but that is kind of what you get when you have a young team and all the attention is on the young players. Like you lose out almost on having the defenders have to pay attention to Dame to give these young guys the space to operate. But I digress. The big winner of the trade, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks, new look Milwaukee. Look, I'll own this. Like Chris Middleton is the ugliest number 2 in the NBA. And no, I'm not just talking about his face. I'm just talking about like he doesn't play a pretty style of basketball, but he gets the job done. And you kind of like that. He reminds me, and it's because he's lanky, skinny, and kind of has that egg shape of Tayshaun Prince, but like way better offensively, like way better. And then like not as good defensively.
So I would say that Drew Holiday last year or the last couple of years has been probably more of a true number 2 in terms of his ability to create for others and himself. Middleton, again, great, 6'8", can shoot over almost anyone. But he's, because of injuries or because of Holiday fitting, getting into the rotation, I feel like, he's kind of had to share that shine. But now he has that pressure off of him in another legitimate outside shooter. It's a possibility that, when you think about Klay Thompson's role, when you think about not, I don't want to go all the way down to Kyle Korver, but Kyle Korver was an all-star on that Atlanta Hawks team where they have 4 guys playing at a all-star pace. And there's a lot of responsibility just removed from him. This trade is being shown to relieve people of a lot of stresses, these intangible stresses that don't always show up in the box scores and sometimes can make the difference between either a young guy like with Portland, these guys rising up to the occasion to become true NBA veterans, or a veteran that fits more into his true role, which is more of a wing scorer off of the drive from a dynamic player like a Giannis or Lillard. Now, and then also Giannis, you probably won't see him anymore scoring 29 points, 30 points a game. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. He's going to be able to create more. He's going to be able to maybe post up more, maybe not have to dribble the ball up as more. What does Giannis do when he's off the ball? Because Dame, as we know, is a great ball dominant shooting point guard. And it's not, and he doesn't do it in a way that costs his team's victories. They are the winners. It's just a matter of how much so.
So it's funny because as I'm thinking this through, neither Dame nor Giannis has ever had a teammate who is as dominant as them that requires as much attention as they do to take such a weight off of both of their shoulders that while I agree that like neither of these guys are going to average 30 points a game, they're both going to score 30 points a game pretty often. So, and then on top of that too, Chris Middleton is the biggest winner. He will be putting up some of his best percentage wise, like shooting, from 3-point shooting to EFG, true shooting percentage, all of those numbers for him are about to be off the charts. He'll get less opportunities. He's going to have more efficient opportunities, though. All of a sudden, look, his guy's off the ball. He's already pretty tall for his position and lanky. Next thing you know, it's the point guard that's switching on him, or someone just way too short, easy, wide open corner threes for him all day. What I find really funny is, and I think this will just be a test of like how good we are at calling these types of things. Look, I was excited when Russell Westbrook came, but my largest concern was usage percentage. Okay. And these guys require the ball in their hand to be as dominant as they were. I believed Russ wouldn't work for the Lakers. I also firmly believe that the Phoenix experiment is going to implode. On the inverse of that, I genuinely believe this trio in Milwaukee works so well. It works so well that if it's Phoenix, Milwaukee, a rematch of the finals from 3 years ago or 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, Milwaukee wins a 7-game series 100 times out of 100. And I would even go so far as to say, pound for pound, the Phoenix trio is probably better. But even in just straight 3-on-3 gameplay, I would take this Bucks trio.
Yeah, and you say pound for pound because we do reduce the weight of Chris Middleton, who probably is the least all-star of the 6 players that we're talking about.
Let's be really specific about this. He's the least offensively skilled and least athletic out of this entire group. He's
right.
not the least, like, there are worse defenders in this group. He's a much better defender than a couple of players, including, I would argue, his own new teammate, Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
But all 5 of these players scare me more if they have the ball in their hands than if Chris Middleton does.
That's right. They go ahead. Continue that thought.
No. I'm good ending it there.
Yeah, I think, and we're talking about the least offensively skilled, the least offensively talented, and this is a guy who's averaged, looking at the stats, he's averaged 20 points a game 4 times in his career. Like, he's not a scrub. I don't know how many all-star games he's made, but I would say at least 2. I would put the over-under at 1.5 because I don't have it up. But what you have there is this big 3 for Milwaukee is so much more complimentary than any big 3 that I see in the NBA right now, or any top 3 players that I see for any team. What you have is, again, the ball dominant shooter, the ball dominant stretch 4, and this 2-3, this extra long 2 guard that essentially would beg you to let him just play catch and shoot. Not to mention that 2 of them are very good defenders. And when you think about Lillard was so good that on a hideous team, if he wasn't all NBA, he was borderline. Normally they reserve those titles for someone who is actually on a decently winning team. But he had so much win share contribution to his team's abysmal record last year. In fact, I was looking at a stat where it took, or I checked this stat out, where it was the percent contribution of total wins. So basically, I took his win shares over the team's total wins. And he, along with maybe 2 other people, were kind of tied with that metric, along with him, Luka Doncic, and maybe SGA. So when you think about winning or losing, like, if your team is winning, he is at the forefront of why your team is winning. And honestly, even if your team is losing, it's probably not his fault. It's like, go get him some help. and looks like he got himself help finally. So we'll see what he does with it. I mean, of all the places that we were thinking about, whether it's Boston, Miami, I saw some Phoenix talk. I was hoping that, praying that he could go to the Lakers. Philadelphia, no one was thinking the Milwaukee Bucks. No one was thinking the team with the best record in the NBA over the last 2-3 seasons. So
Crazy.
to see this happen, it's a blessing for him. It's definitely an indicator, because the biggest story in the NBA for the last 2 weeks, besides Lillard, was Giannis is thinking about not opting into his contract.
He
At
ain't going
least
anywhere now.
at least for the next 4 years, because if the
Why would you?
shooters, why would you? He's a shooter, and if Kyle Korver can play until he's 38, Lillard is definitely on his way to doing that, and even more. So, kudos to all parties involved.
Yeah, this will be honestly, in my opinion, the new favorites to win the NBA title. And low key, I'll be rooting for Dame. Unless they play the Lakers, like, I'm rooting for Dame to get his ring. Like, he deserves it. It would be such a Clyde Drexler move to go from Portland to a team to pair up with like a generational foreign talent and then win a couple of rings while you're at it.
That's a good parallel, and I would say that looking at Milwaukee, who had injury issues, still won 58 games. They're losing a great defender. They're losing a kind of a gritty two guard in Grayson Allen. When you think about Dame's win share contribution, I'd say that they're expected to win at least 56 games next year, and that would be, if they won any less than that, it would kind of be surprising. They won 58 last year. I could see them, because people are taking holidays, that they would take a step down, 2 games off. It's like, we got this, whatever. But I don't see that. I see them as a 58 win team, but I would say no less than 56.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just a matter of their depth. They're not a very deep team this year, so I actually think for the regular season they may disappoint. But then, like, once you get to that playoff rotation of like 8 guys deep, there's 6 guys strong. Bobby Portis coming off the bench. Like, you got energy, defense, rebounds coming off the bench for you. Like, high expectations. Just the final piece, and then I do want us to move on to our next team. The salt in the wounds of Miami, though, to just know that this beating the Bucks team that was number 1, who probably will be number 1 again, and if you have to play them at any point in the playoffs, all you'll be thinking about is what could have been. But speaking of what could have been, that feels like a perfect segue to talk about the Indiana Pacers. Buddy Hield, I still dream about it, man. I still have those dreams that you were traded for nothing to come to the Lakers.
Yeah, what, Russell Westbrook, right?
Dude, I mean, no, I just wish we never traded for Russ. But the Indiana Pacers, I mean, their big move in the offseason is getting Bruce Brown from the Denver Nuggets. We talked a lot about that piece being possibly instrumental in the Nuggets championship runs. But let's be very direct, and let's just ask the question out the gate. Does that piece mean Indiana's a championship team now?
Well, definitely not. The best question would be: are they indeed a playoff bound team? They missed the play-ins last year by a significant chunk. I mean, 6 games. That's a lot. They had no chance. But I would say that when you consider the youth on their team, and Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, are expected to start, and they're expected to contribute a lot. And Benedict did great last year. I don't know if he's probably all rookie first team, averaged 16 points a game. they have Obi. They not only brought in Bruce Brown, but Obi Toppin as well. And of course, he is energy. He's long, 6'9", but his arms are probably 7'1". I mean, his chin is touching the rim easily. This team is. I don't want to say that they're dangerous. I don't want to say Bruce Brown is the difference between making them a legitimate contender. But I will say that if they were ending the season as the 11th best team, I would expect them to be a shoo-in for the play-in tournament. It's just a matter of who's getting pushed out.
Yeah, I think like I look at this team and like I love Tyrese Halliburton and I love Buddy Hield, love Miles Turner and Bruce Brown. I'm not really sold on Obi Toppin. I don't think he's really a player that excites me, and I don't expect to see a lot from him, frankly. Um, but these are really good pieces of a championship team. There's no like guy. Your best bet here really is Tyrese Halliburton making an almost SGA-esque leap forward, which is not out of the realm of possibilities. But short of that, to be quite honest with you, I could see this team not even making the playoffs. Um, I don't really think unless these young players make leaps and bounds forward that they're going to really be competing for even a top 8 seed. They might sneak into the play-in, like kind of in the East, any team can kind of get into the play-in, I feel like. But short of, Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner turning up to like all-star caliber players, I don't see this team making the playoffs.
So Tyrese is an all-star. We can rest assured that. And my problem with the rest
He
of
was
this
last
team,
year, right?
Oh yeah, he was.
Okay.
And he's if he's not in line, if he didn't already get the Supermax, he's in line for it. I mean, he had
No, I think he got the Supermax, but like
okay.
he doesn't scare you.
Well, I guess he doesn't scare you because his numbers are almost identical to James Harden, and James Harden doesn't scare
Doesn't
you.
scare me.
Yeah. So again, I don't know who wouldn't be scared of 21 and 10 a game. Those are nasty numbers, whether you're on a losing team or a winning team. And there's a reason why he was on Team USA that won 4th place in the FIBAs, and there's a reason why he will be why he was voted by the coaches to be an all-star. And I think he will end up being an all-star every year for at least the next 5 years. He's that good. Now, when you talk about the other guys, they may be archetypes for a championship-like team, but they are definitely the base level of what that archetype is. Buddy Hield had essentially at 30 years old, you would think he's in his at his peak right now. I think he's had his best years behind him. He was in Sacramento, and that's not a knock to him. He's still a functional player, but he's never really. I mean, his best year was essentially 6 years ago. In 2018, 2019, he averaged
20 and 3-pointers over like the last 4 years or something because Steph and Clay have missed so much time.
So 3-pointers made, and of course, we're talking about efficiency. So it's like that's nice. And I'm not saying that but that's not necessarily a number 2 guy that you're like, this is the guy. He's averaging in his last. No, it's okay. In his last 4 years, again, this is a guy he had 1 year where he missed a lot of time as well. He had 26 games and he had 55 games in his last year at Sacramento. He averaged 16, 14, 18, and 17. That doesn't scream to me as like, oh yeah, this team is ready because they have Bruce Brown now. Bruce Brown is a very good player that needs great players around him to truly show his worth. So now Bruce Brown is going to be around a lot of lesser than talent players because he was with Brooklyn, and they showed that, oh yeah, he's a really good player. And then he was with Denver, and it's like, oh wow, he's really a good player on an even more successful team. Now he's going back to a team that missed the play-ins by 6 games, and they're going to be looking at you like, you're You're the elder statesman. You're kind of the champion. What do we do? And he's going to be
Buddy
like,
Hield, who's like never played in the playoffs ever in his career.
and he's 30. And I don't know if Miles Turner has played in the playoffs, but he's 27 right now. And again, he's refactored his game so that he's now been making at least a 3.5 a game. Very solid. Still great, getting a bunch of block shots. But again, an archetype of a championship squad, but with too many young pieces. They're going to have 2 starters that are probably under 22 years old. Their best player is only going to be 24. They're essentially a poor man's Kings, in my opinion. And it's going to be so. Buddy Hield went from the Kings before, and now he's on the Kings in the East Coast. He can't get away from a losing record. Maybe he's the bad luck. You probably don't want him on the Lakers.
Maybe. I realize I misspoke, and what I meant to say about Halliburton was not an all-star, an all-NBA campaign this season. That's the bar for him. He needs to be at an all-NBA level for this team to make the playoffs. Otherwise, they're just going to stay exactly where they have been.
So you think that make the playoffs? So you don't think that with Bruce Brown that they can and whatever additions they made? I'm going to have to go back on that one and see how much more production. Okay, I would say that I expect them in the play-ins. Okay, so that means whatever that means.
Play-ins in the East is such a low bar, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Well, the Toronto Raptors were a 500 team. And the New Orleans Pelicans were 42-40. So the bar is 1 game separation. So don't,
All right.
I know the East Coast, it's easy. Let's just kick the East Coast while they're down because all the stars, all the big names,
the 10
Instagram
seed,
fans.
The number 10 seed on the East Coast, Eastern divisions, Eastern conferences, like seeding was a sub 500 team. Like that was not the case for the Western Conference. That's the point I'm trying to make. Like that number 10 seed is very accessible for just about any team.
The Raptors were 500. They're 41-41.
Oh, they were the 10 seed? I thought it was the...
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, the Bulls. The Bulls are 40-42. That's 1 game. I'm sorry, they were flipped.
That's what I'm saying.
1 game difference.
2 games.
Oh, well, yeah, 2 games. So I think you're looking for reasons to nitpick at the East. I don't think it's anyone's game. I don't think the Charlotte Hornets are going to get anywhere near the play-ins. I don't think actually, we'll have to talk about Orlando.
I think they're a sub 500 team unless Tyrese Halliburton somehow makes the leap to being an all NBA player this year.
Okay.
That's it. That's the bet. We're going to the next team. Detroit Pistons. Very young team. I think this is a team that a lot of people have been waiting. Cade Cunningham out injured for most of last season. Apparently was good at camp. I don't believe he made the roster for Team USA for the FIBA tournament, but a lot of praise was sung about this kid. I think so long as they're healthy, their record improves. How much it improves, and if this team is a play-in, I don't expect this team to be a play-in team. I expect them to have a better record than last season. But kind of in the vein of what I alluded to with the Blazers and the Rockets, like this is a very young team that's just going to be given the green light to, hey, find your rhythm, find your role, learn what you're good at, play NBA basketball kind of a system. I mean, look, Monty Williams is a great coach, like built a great program in Phoenix. I think is looking to do the same thing here. But that program took time in Phoenix. There were a lot of years where they weren't very good. So I kind of expect the same right now.
Yeah, when you call a grown man's team, a grown man's organization, a program, that shows that they got problems. That you're describing them like you would describe Alcorn State University. This is the
This
NBA,
isn't an
but guess what?
NBA
This
organization.
is, but yeah, when you look at this, hey, look, Jalen Duren, James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley, the three centers on the team are literally
20 years
19,
old.
22, and 24 years old.
Children.
And then you have Oscar Thompson, I think one of the twins,
19.
19. Then you have Jaden Ivey, who's 21.
21.
Then you have Cade Cunningham, who had a
22.
great year when he played. He's 22. So, and
He played like 3 years ago, dude.
I'm sorry. No,
Like,
no,
he's
no.
been
Well,
out.
he played last
He's been
year for 12 games. He had 19 points a game. He played the year before. He had 17 points a game, 17 and 6. So he
played the whole rookie year.
He had 64 games. That's the whole season nowadays. Yeah. So my thing is, and then you have, where am I going? I lost it. And then you have Bogdan Bogdanovic. I lost my track. Who's like
which season on this team?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he finished last season on this team. So it's like
he won't finish this season. He'll get moved in the same vein. Like Drew Holiday probably won't even go to training camp with the Blazers. Bogdan will probably be like one of those players that gets circulated during the trade deadline, where contenders are like, all right, like this could be the thing that moves the needle for us. We need some depth. Milwaukee comes in and is like, hey, we need this guy for the playoffs.
Assuming that I don't know his contract status, but that's assuming he probably has 1 year left, because he didn't get moved last year, probably because it would be too expensive to buy him out. So when I'm looking at this, Bogdan's 34, and then the rest of this team is the rest of the people who will actually play are under 23 years old. They're just a grab bag of, okay, y'all are going to play. Whoever rises to the top is going to stick around the league for 8 years, 10 years. One of y'all may make an all-star game 7 years down the road, but this is essentially, a farm system to weed out who's going to be an NBA player and who's not. And it's been like that for years. I mean, Stanley Johnson is one of the last memories I had in the Drew League, where this who the heck is this 6'6" muscly 18-year-old putting up 20 points against me when NBA players couldn't even do that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a high school player of the year. Oh yeah, but then guess what? He goes to Detroit, and his best years were essentially his rookie years in Detroit. He is a washout. Detroit is where young NBA players go to die, and it's not a discount to anyone who makes the league. They're all solid. I mean. And now I'm looking at this team. I didn't even notice Joe Harris. He is kind of like the odd man out on all the switcheroos with Brooklyn and Cleveland.
Included in every trade. He's the player you include to like make the luxury needle not move.
He was good. He's good enough to be in the NBA, but he's not good enough to say, gosh, I really, really need him. So he's expendable, but he's good enough to be on an NBA roster. And that's what really makes up all the veterans, the people over 25 years old who are on the Pistons. And the other ones, it's like, if we can possibly find a superstar within this group, then we'll try to hold on to him best before he goes to find greener pastures. There's no Monty Williams running a good program like he did in Phoenix. When the big boys came around, he goes out. Didn't he run a program in New Orleans as well? And he's going to coach a bunch of fifth year seniors. That's not. I don't see that as a good NBA.
I'm glad you caught my program jab, because this very much is a basketball program. This is not an organization, to say the least. So on that note, I want to move on from this basketball program.
Are they going to win more than 17 games this year? Are they going to get better or worse? 17-65 last year. Do they win 20 games?
Here's the simple truth. This could be a team that scores more points, is more efficient, has like better statistical from the box score perspective outlook, and then somehow end up with like 16 wins. Like that is the realm of possibilities with this team. I will go on a limb and say I think they'll get something to the tune of like 19 to 20. So an improvement, but only slight. But I don't rule out the decline.
Would never bet on a team to just stick to just they were the worst team in the NBA last year. I don't bet for them to go down. So but I don't bet for them to go that much higher. I would say 20 games is about their peak. 21.
I would say they'll be like the 29th ranked team in the NBA. They'll go from 30th to 29th. That is what I'd be more comfortable saying.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's have a good one. Let's go to at least a team we could have some championship aspirations with, the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that, just like their divisional counterpart, disappointed with an early first round exit. I think by that, you got Jared Allen, Evan Mobley back. Donovan Mitchell gets a full training camp, full season with this team. Darius Garland continues to grow as a player. You also get Max Struss from the lovely Miami Heat run. Karis LeVert. I liked this team last year, and they had a similar formula as the Lakers, where they essentially were made better in the offseason by doing next to nothing and allowing this team that didn't have the opportunity to really gel until the season started. It's like being told, hey, the race has started, but by the way, this is your new teammate. Okay. Now they get to like find that rhythm. I think anything short of an improvement in the record is a disappointment. I'm not necessarily so much concerned about who makes the all-star team or who scores the most points or what role who has on this team. What I'm more concerned about is how deep of a run they go and how healthy they are. Like, this was my dark horse to win the East last year. Frankly, I think that of any team, they match up best to the Bucks and probably pose the largest challenge to the Bucks in a 7-game series, more so than a team like the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I actually think that I've always been a fan, actually, of the two really tiny guards in the NBA. I do think that it's functional because the game has become a little bit more perimeter focused. Darius and Donovan, when you consider both of them on the squad, good enough to be a starting ball dominant ball handler on almost any team. Because when you look at their bench, it's like Ricky Rubio, you don't expect him to play any more than 40 games if you're lucky. And then Karis LeVert, more like a 6'6", kind of like almost like a, what is his name, Jamal Crawford type of guy, but a little bigger. So not necessarily the guy that you'll look to create for other people as much for himself. But they got better. Like, they brought in Georges Niang from Philly. They brought in Max Strus from Miami. And that's allowing Karis to be Karis, and that's giving more options for reliable scoring, whether it's spot up shooting from both of them, and some toughness on the defense. So Isaac Okoro is still on the team. They're going to play defense. Mobley and Allen, twin towers. Damian Jones provides a big body if either of them kind of get hurt, that he's kind of pointless from an offensive standpoint. But you're going to expect Mobley and or Allen to be an all-star in the weaker East. And then you're going to expect Garland and or Mitchell to be an all-star in the East as well. So there's 4 potential all-stars. I'm not saying that all 4 of them will make it, but you wouldn't be surprised if you get 2 all-stars, if even 3 from this team if they're winning. And I expect based on their age, based on the idea that now Mitchell has a full training camp, you have this chance for chemistry, and I expect, unless there's something critically wrong with the locker room, you're going to expect them to do better this year than they did last year in the regular season. Of course, it comes down to, can you beat a team in the playoffs where Madison Square Garden scared the hell out of them, or Damian Lillard isn't going to take no prisoners. You're going to face that kind of stuff, and you don't want to lose in the first round. So I'd say this team, even if a success for this team, especially with how the East is moving with Boston and Milwaukee, a second round exit is theoretically a success because they're young enough to continue to build on that.
No, this team needs to play in the Eastern Conference Finals. This team needs to at least play in the Eastern Conference Finals this year because they didn't get enough playoff minutes last year. I mean, look, the way things fall, you could end up seeing the Celtics and Bucks playing in the second round. I could absolutely see that type of scenario, and the Cavs getting an easy path, or I could see a world where literally the Cavs have to fight tooth and nail to get through the Celtics after playing someone like the 76ers in the first round and then having to play the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I mean, the Cavs want to be title contenders. You got to beat other title contenders. It's as simple as that. I don't think we care too much about the path NBA teams really take to get to the finals because a 7-game series, you have enough time to kind of expose the other team. So with that in mind, I kind of feel like people end up, I mean, unless you're on the losing end, like Lakers, you end up feeling pretty satisfied that the winner is the best team that won the series. But I digress. I want to round out with our final team, unless you have anything else you want to add on the Cavs.
No, I just think that they have good depth, and I think that they will end up. They're the type of team that could one of those waiver wire wonders when a veteran is going to get dropped by his team. I mean, what's his name? Drew Holiday. If he wants to be that third guard in this rotation, ooh, look out! What happens then? I don't want to play fantasy basketball too fast, but that could be interesting.
Oh my God, if they got Drew Holiday, I can't wait for that Bucks Cavs series.
That you heard it here first.
Scary. Where do you think Drew Holiday ends up?
I didn't do my research enough.
I mean, allegedly, almost every NBA team called. So you have your pick of order.
The Lakers.
Yeah, but you're not a Lakers fan.
That doesn't mean who's their point guard? D'Lo ain't a real point guard.
Russ.
What are you talking about? What are you saying? Why are you trolling? You just said
Dude, Russ is the point guard. Reeves is the shooting guard. Exactly. You're not a Lakers fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're freaking me out. When you say Russ, I'm thinking Westbrook.
Oh, sorry. No,
D'Angelo Russell. Don't call him Russ.
Mini Russ.
I don't know. I would say if I just based on how I was thinking right now, I think Cleveland would be a good spot just because their backup, the next guard in line, is often injured. But
I'll just say this: if the Celtics get him, then all of a sudden the Porzingis deal looks a lot better. But I'm gonna be pissed for if they somehow manage to get freaking Drew Holiday after losing out on Dame. I'll be pissed. I wouldn't hate Drew Holiday to the 76ers though.
No, not while Harden's still there.
No, but that would be a 3-team deal. Harden won't go to Portland. But let's round things out with Chicago Bulls. Another team that just kind of got bit with the injury bug, snuck into the play-in anyways. It is a little bit of a cop-out to just say they could do this so long as they don't get injured. But Chicago's a spitting image of exactly that. Lonzo's still out for this year. You don't have Lonzo Ball yet. You do have Zach LaVine. You do have DeMar DeRozan. You do have All-NBA defensive first-teamer and NBA champion Alex Caruso on the team.
This isn't the Laker pregame show. John Ireland is not sitting next
Alex to Caruso is always welcome to come back to the Lakers with open fucking arms. Don't be salty that this balding white boy from Texas can ball better than you can.
He's long as hell, dude. Like it's not like he looks small out on an NBA court. Like he has length for days. So I'm okay with getting beat up by Alex Athletic Caruso.
Who's also, he looks older than you, but you are much older than him. Like, I think a decade plus.
Are you trying to hurt my heart? I don't care, man. I can still dunk. I'll post highlights on the Bitcoin Ballers
I
next
just
week.
I
Don't
but
make me
I
download all
needed
my
some
YouTube highlights.
spiciness. We've been a little muted today, so I needed some spiciness on the show. I like the Chicago Bulls. I secretly root for because they have so many like former Lakers. Like I like Lonzo. He was always great on the Lakers. Like
And LA talent as well. Levine and DeRozan.
Levine and DeRozan. DeRozan long wanting to come to the Lakers. Long suspected of coming to the Lakers, but um, they kind of fall in the same category almost as the Pacers, with the caveat of they're a little bit deeper. And I would go so far as to say their best players are better than the Pacers' best players. Like Tyrese Halliburton's a baller, but like Zach LaVine, that dude can ball. But and I think we've given Zach LaVine enough rope between his time in Minnesota and now his time in Chicago. He can take a team to the playoffs, sure. Can't take you much further than that. He's not a number one guy. So the question really is, how long does Chicago stick around with Zach? His name is always thrown around, as is DeMar's with different trades. Um, I don't rule out this season being the season where they blow this team up. I'd be a little disappointed that they never let Lonzo come back, because when this team is all healthy, they can compete. They can compete with just about any team in the Eastern Conference, including the top teams like the Celtics, the Bucks, maybe not with Dame, and maybe not the Cavs now that they have Donovan Mitchell, because this team has never been fully healthy when the Cavs have had Donovan Mitchell. But I think the rest of the NBA, I think they could keep up with.
So I think they can keep up with the rest of the NBA because they have really good backup guards. I think Javon Carter and Kobe White are, when you think about
Could be
their
starters.
legitimate, could be starters. And I say low end starters. But me hanging out with my old teammate Jabril, he was on the show. He let me know how efficient, how good Javon Carter is, and I respect him where I may not have respected him as much as I did in the past. Kobe White has been on the Bulls, I think, his whole career, and he has continuously, if I'm looking at stats, he's continuously taken a step back as the stars in Levine and DeRozan have moved into the main spotlight and taken more of the usage, if you will. But he is a very efficient. He knows he is a very successful and will continue to be a successful NBA guard. So then you have the other guys with Caruso, Levine, and DeRozan, all very, very solid, will play for years. I mean, DeMar has played for years. He's top 38 scorer of all time. And he's trailing Steph Curry. If he ends up playing longer than Steph Curry, he can end up passing him potentially in all-time points.
He won't.
But okay, thanks. The fan group is in the next podcast, dude. So, but when I look at this team, I'm like, all of these guys are essentially number twos. Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic,
Or number threes.
Or number threes. That's right. So at number twos at the best, and where does that get you? You look at them, it's like, oh, they've been all stars. All three of those guys have been all stars. Great backups, great defense. Even they had Patrick Beverley last year, where they at the end for a playoff run. Great defensive team. But they don't have that it factor that's a reliable, consistent force in close games. And I was talking when Harden said he wanted out. I'm like, that's the perfect situation. You accept Harden on a one-year deal, you get rid of Levine, and you're essentially staggering your blow-up of this team. And Harden will still be able to put up numbers for you, but at the same time, he's on an expiring contract, and you can let him walk the next year.
So let me get this straight. You want to take a guy that you've established is like at best a number two option and ship him off for a different guy that's at best a number two. I would make the case at best a number three option.
Do you understand? Hard. So you have to understand that the
I'm just
Bulls have
saying,
Harden.
make it
Listen,
make sense.
okay, I'm trying. Levine is locked into 4 years. Harden is on 1 year. So what ends up happening is the Bulls get the expiring deal with Harden and it's over. Whereas Levine gets to be a legitimate number two for a Philadelphia team who's still trying to win. And so now you have Maxey, you have Levine, and you have Embiid. But guess what? You're so hateful. If I mention Harden, it's all everyone loses. They lose for getting rid of him. They lose for getting him.
Here's where I'm coming from genuinely. Zach LaVine has been the number one option now in Minnesota and in Chicago. But the simple truth is I don't believe that Zach LaVine is good enough to be a number two option on a championship caliber team. That's just sort of my understanding of his game. And he comes from a window of time in NBA generational talent where like his counterpart was Aaron Gordon. Those dunk contests. And Aaron Gordon at the time was also his team's number one. How did that really work out? It didn't. It didn't really work out for Aaron Gordon until he really became like the number three, found his niche, found his role. Zach LaVine is actually the perfect sixth man. The perfect sixth man who can come in, dominate the second rotation, and continue to give you points while your main scorers are on the bench. He's been given a lot of opportunities because he's on teams that don't really have much else after him. The exception of this Chicago Bulls team, where he has risen to the top of this team. And frankly, I did not expect that. I thought that this was going to turn into DeMar DeRozan's team. But LaVine has really owned this team and, to his credit, risen to the occasion. But how high have they risen? And it's not very high. So it's the same trend that we see time and time again, where he's given the opportunity to be the focal guy. So he's going to put up these numbers, but that's not the right role for him in the constructs of a championship team. Andre Iguodala put up amazing numbers for the Philadelphia 76ers when he was their dude.
Okay, so a couple things that you mentioned that I wanted to not assault, but maybe counter. So DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine are both averaging 24 and a half points a game, I think consistently. So when you think about that, oh, whose team is it? Like, this is truly a 1A, 1B dynamic. And it's okay.
So is this just poor man Celtics then?
Yeah, I would say it's a poor man Celtics team because they got good defense just like the Celtics do. What I'm saying, and also when you think about, Zach LaVine would be a great six man. You know who else would be a great six man?
DeMar DeRozan.
Jerry West, DeMar DeRozan. Steph Curry would be a great six man if Magic Johnson was a point guard. It's nice to have
really. But you know who wouldn't be? Chris Paul, who's a six man now, apparently. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Keep going.
No, it's okay. No, I like it. So Chris Paul wouldn't be a good six man. Well, guess what? He may be if there's someone else better than him. What you're saying, you're essentially saying you want him to be somewhere where someone is better than him. And I say that with the Sixers, when you think about Maxey as a 22, 23-year-old rising star scoring 20 points a game last year with Harden. How much? I don't want to assume, but I want to quickly make sure I'm not lying. How much did he score? If I look at the standings, I look at the Sixers, and I look at the stats for the Sixers, and I'm pulling up Maxey. Maxey did average 20 points a game, with Harden scoring 21 and Embiid scoring 21. Tyrese Maxey is 22 years old. So LaVine, probably at his, when you talk about all-star games, like, is he going to make another all-star game? It's probably different. Now it's going to be probably whether he's on a winning or losing team. Losing team, it's like, yeah, we'll take, no thanks. But it's like, oh, now you're doing that scoring, but your team is like the 5th best team in the NBA. Yeah, you're an all-star. So now you take Tyrese Maxey, scored 20 points, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists as a 22-year-old. You get rid of James Harden, ball dominant, and then all of a sudden now you put in LaVine, ball dominant, but maybe not as much. And it's like, Tyrese, you're truly the point guard now. And you have the MVP Embiid, and then you have LaVine, who who is going to shuffle. Guess what? The first year, it may be Zach LaVine as the number 2. The next year, Maxey may overtake him because he's continually to get better. LaVine's going to mold into who he plays in his 30s. And so what you're saying is, like, he would be great as a third option. That still fits as the Sixers, these trades don't happen as like, okay, now boom, now let's go win a championship. It doesn't happen like that for everyone. I'm saying the Sixers should take advantage of a potential Chicago Bulls saying we need to reset before, guess what, we have no assets, because DeMar DeRozan ain't going to play his 36-year-old career or his 36-year-old year. He's not going to play in Chicago. He's going to go home to play for the Lakers. He's going to play for the Clippers. He's going to go play for the Suns. And you just want to get that value, just like the Blazers did, before it becomes, hey, you're a free agent. You never want to in a middling market, Chicago middling market, yeah, unless you have Jordan.
Like, you can't afford to have this guy retire on you.
That's right. Can't. Or walk. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that puts a good bow on it, though. The real question with the Chicago Bulls team is, will they have the patience to wait for Lonzo to come back and see what they have fully healthy, or is it time to start blowing this team up? I think that's the question of how well this team will do or not.
The good thing is that even if they blow the team up, Lonzo's still coming back to a blown up team. He's not a graybeard. Like, he's 26, 27 years old.
You blow this team up to build it around Lonzo. Like, as weird as that sounds, because Lonzo's never shown to be the caliber of player would warrant to build it around, but he can have a team. You can find players that Lonzo can help accentuate their skill sets.
Do you think the Bulls are going to be better than their 40-42 selves?
No, but only because I do think they make a significant trade this season as well. I think there are going to be a lot of trades in the season this year, just because of what you've seen in the offseason a little bit. I think a lot of teams are now going to start to play catch up a little bit, and you're seeing a shift away from a core 2 with depth and a shift back to almost like a trio super team almost. So if DeRozan's on the market, certain teams are going to look to him as like, this could be our third option. If player like LaVine is on the market, that's an option. Heck, even Buddy Hield could warrant teams looking at him and considering him at that option. But if he is or is not, a whole separate topic. But I think that's going to do it for this episode, unless you have anything else you want to touch on before we say goodnight.
I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
All righty. Well, it has been another